His target was moving, so it had released lots of attacks to follow it up. The only problem was that this place was filled with injured people. Some of them might get hurt and accidentally be hit by these beams. A few moments later, its system concluded that it had already hit the target, so it stopped attacking. But as it scanned the surroundings further, all it saw was the head of Mad Brains lying on the ground. This alerted AGM once again, and before it could start with its desperate search, someone also came in from the hole that it created. The system also confirmed that it detected Haiju's signal. The crowd then wondered who this individual might be. AGM has turned its attention towards the one that just arrived. And there she is. Haiju has finally shown herself. But something was noticeably different. She had this new outfit now, and the aura she was emitting was definitely more powerful. Some of the crowd even thought that she was an angel. Before coming to this place, the system has confirmed that Haiju has unlocked a special event. She officially became Jack's disciple, and it made her inherit his martial arts. As a reward, an equipment that was ranked heroic class or higher would be given to her. She also earned a new skill called Swordmaster Student. This right here was the improved version of our waifu. The item that she got was called Illusion Ember. This one has a heroic class, and it was the armor of the best swordsman named Larny. The user would also receive a significant increase in defense power. And while Haiju made this amazing entrance, Yul and Jack were just on top of the place watching. These two were now talking about the odds of Haiju winning against a robot that was built to counter her whole existence. Jack revealed that this would be a 50-50 fight. This goblin claimed that the one in front of Haiju was her natural enemy. In their previous fight, she had no chance of winning. But things are different now because this lady has already learned martial arts. Each attack that Haiju was releasing was able to overpower AGM. But this robot wouldn't just give up because its only mission was to defeat and kill Haiju. Jack then thought that if the teachings that he had implanted into this one's brain would bloom, she would surely win this one. AGM wouldn't also appear as her enemy because she could just compare it to a piece of metal. Haiju was finally serious, and she used her passive skill. A little recap of what had been happening all over the map. After 3 days and 15 hours since the mission, the first pillar has been destroyed. As for the second pillar Guardian, this took a little longer than expected, even though the army had already provided some backups. It took them 3 days and 17 hours before they could destroy it. A few hours after this event, Haiju and AGM's fight was ongoing. But this didn't take much longer, as our waifu had already dealt the finishing blow towards the robot. The system also confirmed that this special monster had been defeated. Seeing this, the crowd got more wary about their situation. On the 4th day, Ying noticed someone that was coming near him. This individual had this silhouette that seemed to be holding a spear weapon. Behind this one, there's also a lot of people standing. The individual was Haiju, and she smiled after seeing Ying being safe as well. This was also the time when most of the citizens returned to the game. 3 hours after their short reunion, something monumental happened. With the help of Ying and Haiju, humanity has finally destroyed the second pillar. These guys started to celebrate as they thought that they could definitely do this. They could fight and survive. The crowd also assumed that they just got some wins even without the help of Choi Yul. But all they knew was information on a surface level. They didn't realize that this was all planned by our MC. This guy was still with Jack, and the Goblin Swordmaster claimed that his student won the bet, so he would now keep his promise. The seal of the Demon King that was hovering above the city then started emitting this blue lightning. Something was happening. Meanwhile, the army has proceeded on assisting the people. They were now giving some food and additional equipment. Ying was now talking with Commander Song. His superior can't believe that his subordinate was now being held as a general of the army for leading them to victory. But this didn't really bother Commander Song because they still have a lot of things to do. He then told Ying to do what he needed to do, as he would take responsibility for these things. Before ending the call, Commander Song even teased Ying of being promoted after this task. This soldier had no other choice but to follow these orders. All he could do now was to sigh. Haiju then came in and greeted him. This lady informed Ying that they should now get going. Ying asked her if she was really sure about this move. Haiju assured him that this was his promise to his master. Ying then imagined this scene where Jack told Haiju that the next time they would be meeting, they will be enemies. And since the most powerful Pillar Guardian was the last one they should defeat, Ying wondered if they could win against it. This soldier knew that with difficulty level 3, this boss strength couldn't be compared to those they had already defeated. He also wondered what Yul had been thinking. But before they could leave the place and go to the third pillar, the whole area was enveloped with an intense aura. These two then saw that something just struck the seal of the Demon King with a powerful force, and as they focused their gazes, they figured that this individual was Choi Yul. Our MC just landed an intense kick towards the Demon King's seal and it created huge cracks all over it. No one would have dared to destroy the seal with just a simple physical attack. After that, the seal broke and the debris started falling from the sky. The system then confirmed that it was really Choi Yul who destroyed the seal of the Demon King. This made Haiju and Ying dumbfounded. Doing this brave move also forced the system to change the whole goal of their mission. Red ominous energy then started leaking from the destroyed seal of the Demon King. This was like a crack in space and time. As for the new mission, their primary goal now was to kill the Demon King. Different creatures that looked like angels and demons then started pouring out from the crack. The system also emphasized that the game would be over in case they failed to do the mission. And because of this unexpected move from our MC, the crowd has become enraged once again. They claimed that Yul was really not thinking straight. This was the same for these two as they wondered what Yul was really planning to do. As for the last Pillar Guardian, this one commented that he didn't expect Yul to actually do it. He got this smile as he thought that there's still a few interesting humans this time around. Jack then prepared himself for the battle that he was about to face. This guardian then jumped and headed towards the Demon King's seal. Jack unsheathed his sword and started releasing his own aura. And with an incredible speed, this one had managed to defeat a whole bunch of monsters that were coming from the cracked space. These ones had no chance of even reacting to Jack's swordsmanship. Haiju and Jing witnessed this scene and they immediately felt the gap between their power. This was a monster that they were planning to take on before this chaos broke out. Jack noticed the presence of his student and then dedicated this move to her. He claimed that this will be the homework that he would be leaving to her. He would like Haiju to devote herself to learning martial arts until fate allows their calling to intertwine. Meanwhile, our MC just entered this unknown realm that was inside the Demon King's seal. He now had this fallen angel's halo, which was a legendary class accessory. This was the thing that protected him inside this demon realm and hell. As he wandered inside this place, Yul found this creature that was standing in front of him. He claimed that this just made things even simpler than what he had expected. Yul then started shouting towards this creature to catch its attention. Turns out, this one was the Demon King. Our MC used this opportunity to ask if this one knew another Demon King named Krasna. This creepy Demon King then turned around and revealed its massive build. He also answered Yul's question and told him that he had never heard that name before. This one also wondered how a human managed to come to this place. The name of this one was Kadam Baba, and he's the Demon King of Authority. This boss monster has a difficulty of level 6. Yul had this disappointed expression as he concluded that Demon Kings were not fond of interacting with each other. And since his question was already answered, our MC turned around and commented that things would really take some time before he could get more clues about this book. But before leaving the place, he turned his head around and apologized to Kadam Baba for interrupting his meal. Yul also noted that the Demon King's real opponent would be arriving soon. Kadam Baba then smiled and scratched his head as he thought that this situation was kinda embarrassing. But then, the atmosphere around the area changed as this one was already charging a strike onto our friendly and carefree MC. Yul's eyes widened as he was not expecting this cheap move from the Demon King. And while this was happening, Jack had finally reached the summit of the Demon King's seal. He landed on the ground and immediately heard loud noises. This one had this expression as he saw what was really happening in this place. Blood has already been scattered all over the place. The Demon King also had this angry expression on him. As for Yul, he was just there facing Kadam Baba. The bigger picture was then shown as it revealed that the fists that this Demon King had been building all throughout his life were now gone. The blood that was scattered was from him. Our MC had his fist clenched as he commented that he moved based on his instincts. He thought that this was really against the rules. Kadam Baba was clearly confused and lost as he wondered how a human had this amount of power at his disposal. Yul then apologized repeatedly as he claimed that this was all just a mistake. He wanted this Demon King to hear his explanation first and to calm down. But this method was clearly not working as Kadam Baba was now enraged. He also started growing back the lost fists on his arms. Our MC then turned around and asked Jack if this Goblin Swordmaster would like to change places with him. Jack answered that he wanted to, but it seemed that the Demon King wouldn't allow it. Yul awkwardly smiled and agreed on what Jack had said. A powerful strike was also being charged at him by Kadam Baba. This one was a little distracted as he thought that things got all twisted at the last minute. He then happily received the strike of the Demon King. While being sent flying, he recalled the scenario that he had prepared. Supposedly, Jack and Kadam Baba would go into a one-on-one fight. There's a hidden event called Martial Artist's Fate that would be triggered. And this one would make the Goblin Swordmaster perform a technique that would have a mutual destruction with the Demon King. This event would also increase the rewards drastically. And all of these points would be given to the citizens. But right now, that plan was out of the picture. The Demon King continued attacking Yul while he was still absorbed in his thoughts. This guy was not even trying to block any of Kadam Baba's strikes. The system then revealed that the armor that our MC was wearing has a legendary grade. This was called Einherjar Battle Jacket. This one is a gear for the chosen warders for the War of the Gods. As he continued to allow the Demon King to land multiple attacks, Yul thought that there's nothing he could do about the lost special event. He then thought that he would just wait for the people to accumulate hunting points and end this fight before someone dies. Jack stood there watching how the Demon King looked like he was just massaging our MC. He had become speechless because something like this should be impossible to happen. Meanwhile, outside the demon realm, lots and lots of monsters were being defeated. The army had continued assisting the citizens on hunting these ones and evacuating them in a safer place. Ying was the one who led this squad. But right now, he was just too tired. He stared at the monsters they were about to face and thought that these ones were all easy to deal with. The only problem was their infinite number. He knew that if this fight was dragged a little longer, humanity would eventually fall. And this was all because Choi Yul destroyed the Demon King's seal. This also made our MC the official enemy of the city. But his trust on Yul was still there until someone dies from this. On the other part of the map, an individual just landed on a car. This one was Haiju. And she was leading some of the people on rescuing some of the citizens that got trapped. This lady also took care of the monsters that were looming near the area. With just one rounded slash, she managed to kill all of them. The monsters that wings were burnt and just fell on the ground. And after ensuring that all of the enemies were defeated, Haiju would escort the citizens towards the shelters near them. She also heard the comments of these people and they were about Choi Yul opening the Demon King's seal. These ones were not happy about it. Haiju sighed because she was really not a fan of hearing some bad comments about Yul. But one person then asked her if she would just let those slide. This lady right here who was eating some chips revealed that she had expected Haiju to explode after hearing those comments about her boyfriend. Also, the name of this lady was Kang Jiwoo. Haiju then blushed as she denied that Yul was not even her boyfriend. Jiwoo's eyes were then set on her as she repeated the words that Haiju had said. After that, Jiwoo gave this lady the chips that she was eating. This move confused Haiju. She then revealed that this was her way of thanking Haiju for saving her life. She also thanked her in advance for escorting them to the safety zone. But when Haiju was about to have some chips, she found out that there's only a half piece of it left inside. As for our MC, he was still inside the demon realm. Jack had enough seeing him just receive every strike that the Demon King gives, so he started wielding his sword. The Goblin Swordmaster went in front and told our MC that it was his time to step back. Yul was not expecting this. Jack then teased Yul and claimed that this human was growing fond of him. But that was not the case. Our MC was just worried about his conscience. The goblin even added that he thought that if they had met in another world, Yul might have invited him for a drink. And these statements dealt critical damage to this guy's conscience. After that, Jack had rushed towards the Demon King. Yul tried stopping him, but it was no use. This guy then felt sorry for letting the goblin fight the Demon King even though he could just defeat it in one go. Our MC was now witnessing an intense fight between Jack and Kadambaba. Right now, it was already too late to activate the hidden special event. All he could do was to facepalm himself as he felt too much guilt seeing this situation. The Book of Krasna then suddenly started shining. This one reacted because the system notified our MC that maximum friendliness level has been reached towards Jack. Krasna's hidden skill was activated. Yul then opened the book and checked the information about it. He had this wide smile as he figured something interesting. In the meantime, Jack had already taken a beating. This goblin concluded that Kadambaba was indeed deserving of the title of the Demon King. But even then, he still stood up with his face held up high in front of this overwhelming being. Jack gripped his sword even tightly as he knew that it was now the time to use his ultimate move. The only problem with this was that it would also put his life at stake. This goblin swordmaster then remembered the bond he shared with his disciple Haiju and friend Yul, and it gave him enough courage to face death. But before he could use his skill, the head of Kadambaba was already sent flying. And the culprit behind this sudden punch was none other than Choi Yul. Jack stared at his friend as this impossible feat unfolded in front of him. A new One-Punch Man has been born. Before fading away, Kadambaba was still confused on how a human managed to do this thing to him. After that, a huge explosion was felt all throughout the area. The system then notified everyone that Demon King Kadambaba had been taken down. And the top contributor for this victory was Choi Yul. An invisible force also landed on Jack, and he immediately felt it. Turns out, all the summoned monsters in this mission will be annihilated. This goblin was now slowly fading away. But then, Yul appeared in front of Jack wearing this huge smile on his face. The system then showed the hidden skill that the book had activated earlier. Our MC now has the ability to recruit 4 overlords and sign a familiar spirit contract with them. And as for the first one he wanted to sign a contract with was Jack. A confirmation window appeared once again before the ritual could begin. This goblin swordmaster couldn't believe that such a thing would be possible. A few seconds later, the demon realm has completely crumbled down. Yul was left there alone, free falling. He also commented that right now, he had been hated by humans. He even allied with a monster. Inside the Book of Krasna was Jack's image. This meant that our MC could summon him anytime he wanted. Yul smiled as he thought that as time passed by, he was drifting further and further away from being a human. After that, an announcement window appeared and it started showing and calculating all the points they earned. All of the citizens would be receiving at least 800 points now. As for the top scorers of this mission, Ying placed third and he will receive 3,245 points. Haiju got the second place and will receive 4,543. And as expected, Yul was the top scorer and would get around 220,000 points. Some of the people who saw this had this bitter expression on their faces. These ungrateful beaches were getting me annoyed every single time. Thankfully, we were blessed to see the flame dragon goddess Haiju, and among the ones who was notified about them winning this round was Jiwoo. This lady was now sitting at the edge of the building while staring at Yul. She wondered if this guy was really the Golden Child, or if he was merely a catalyst for an impending explosion. Nonetheless, I feel like this lady right here would have a greater and more important role in the future. As for Ying, he was relieved to see that all things have worked out. He then thought that even though he didn't know much about games, he could tell that their situation right now looked like this. A large number of troops defending a single base. He then paused before continuing his chain of thoughts. He wondered that if this was really a game, would the existence of a supreme unit like Yul be allowed? This guy right here made himself max leveled at the very start of the game. He was also smart and capable enough to defeat a demon king this early on. Would the beings that were playing this game allow a phenomenon like this? After that unbalanced battle, the system had finally notified these beings that it had just detected an abnormal unit. Choi Yul's max stats were then shown in front of them. This guy's PFP even looked like he was just there chilling. The system then asked these ones to decide on the action they would like to enforce against this unit. There were 4 options: annihilate, reset, defer, or summon. The being was now thinking on what he or she should choose. Our MC's face was then shown once again, and after a few seconds, the being had finally chosen. And it was to annihilate the said overpowered MC. Upon clicking the button, Choi Yul felt an intense pressure around him. His usual calm and carefree expression was gone. He prepared himself in case there would be an unexpected danger. But nothing happened. Yul landed on this building and was still thinking about that weird feeling. He thought that he was being watched. As for the player of their city pawn, the system has notified him that the command that this one wanted couldn't be carried out. This error definitely annoyed this powerful being, and because it can't accept what happened, this one tried to find more loopholes in the system. It then started a thorough inspection towards Yul. The system then showed a whole new information about our MC. This guy right here was now being considered to be a hidden unit. The player that was assigned in Yul's city hid him from the other players that were playing the game. After some configurations towards Choi Yul, the game resumed back to normal. And because they have just won another game, all of the people that contributed received their rewards. And unlike the first time, their points were not stolen. Some of them immediately bought healing items to replenish their stamina and be healthy again. An announcer also appeared, and this guy used a magical class tool called Messenger's Voice. This allowed his voice to reach faraway places for everyone to hear. The thing that he just announced was about the reward dice that the system was giving them. Turns out, dice came in 7 different classes. Each one corresponds to the possible item rarity that a unit could get. The first set were the 4, 6, and 8-faced dice. The next were 10, 12, and 20-faced dice. These were the ones that allowed units to get up to legendary class items. As for the last type of dice, it was the 100-faced. This was a dice that appeared at the very start of the game. The items, weapons, equipment, and tools are produced at random. Getting high rarity items would not also mean that they would really be useful, just like what Ying got this time. This one was called the Destiny Spork, a heroic class tool. The only use of this item was that if the user misplaced it, it will always come back. This spork is always clean. The people around the area have rolled their dice to get another set of items. And since it was too random, other people have started trading to others. Ying also observed that even if they just cleared a mission, some people were already looking for party members. Some of them were even volunteering to defend the evacuation centers. This soldier then recalled something that happened a few minutes ago. He asked Haiju if she was really sure about her decision. Haiju confirmed this and told him that she was really not fit to be in the military. On top of that, she was thinking about those people who were still in another place and hiding in fear. She wanted to help those ones. Before leaving, Haiju assured Ying that she will always help them during missions, so this soldier wouldn't need to worry that much. Ying thought that people were really slowly adapting to this unrealistic world they were in. As for our MC, he was quite glad that all things turned out to be fine. He commented that this beginning for the citizens was going well. The champion who will be the essence of the missions, and the military commander that he needed have both taken their respective places. Yul then thought of what he should do next. This was a most important part of this scenario. He knew that if the setting that he planned for this city goes wrong, the citizens might end up destroying the whole place. This guy was now absorbed in his thought process and brainstorming. But someone poked him. Yul turned his head and he saw a young lady that was now standing beside him. This lady was none other than Kang Jiwoo, the same person who was saved by Haiju a while ago. She then greeted our MC with a friendly smile on her face. Yo then panicked and immediately checked the Book of Krasina for some information about her. He was able to get some basic ones like her name and her level. But aside from that, the thing that made our MC confused was how this lady managed to come up there. Jiwoo answered that she just simply climbed up. After the introduction, Jiwoo leaned a little closer to our MC, and this made the atmosphere around them a little awkward. While staring at Yo, Jiwoo commented that she thought he would be here crying because he was being isolated from the rest. But that was not the case. She then concluded that this may have been the way this guy had lived his life for a long time and he was already used to being alone. Yo asked her what she meant by that statement, but Jiwoo didn't answer him. She then told him that she won't be revealing the reason why she came to see him today. And this just confused our MC even more. And since Jiwoo noticed that Yo really had no idea about what she was thinking and planning, she dared him to use the Book of the Demon King. But our MC revealed that the thought process of people was not considered to be part of the data, so it would be impossible. This lady was relieved to hear that. And since she was done checking Yo, she prepared herself to leave the place using this rope. She also told our MC that she just wanted to see his face. Jiwoo leaped and utilized the rope. However, before departing, she made a remark about the person who had foolishly opted for the difficult path despite possessing the power to control the place. Yo panicked as he saw the lady descending down the building, and after a few more moments, she was gone. Yo thought that this lady was really weird and scary. The day then passed by peacefully. This gave the people to rest and prepare themselves. A few hours later, notifications started appearing once again. This one announced that the city's experience points just increased and it increased its level to 1. This will also open a lot of perks for the citizens to enjoy. The first one was that the status window's size could be customized. The people were also able to use the Friend Edition and Block feature now. Text messaging and call features were also unlocked. As for the city, all the destroyed parts of this place would be partially recovered. Meanwhile, Yo was still on the top of the building. He was reading the information about this city leveling and found out that the more points the citizens spend, the more experience points the city earns. Our MC then scratched his head and thought that maybe the ones he had used were not included on the system, though he had spent quite a lot. This thought process then made him silent for a moment. He wondered where the points that he spent went through. Yo figured that the points he just spent most likely went towards the Demon King Krasina. This mystery was enough to make our MC wonder if it was really okay to keep using this book. Meanwhile, someone just got promoted and got the 2nd lieutenant badge, and this individual was Yeung. Because of the bravery that he showed last mission, Commander Song got really fond of him. And while this promotion was happening, one lady was observing everything from the top of the building. It was Jiwoo. She thought that the ones that Yo had chosen to lead the citizens were not half bad either. She wondered where she could fit in to get comfortable in the current situation. It was then revealed that she just knocked some of the soldiers that were assigned to this post. This lady also had a box full of dice. She got these from the military storage. Back to our MC, Yo was still having his meditation at the top of the tower. A notification then popped out and it was an announcement that a new turn had begun. Yo opened his eyes and got this more serious expression on his face. The space that their pawn landed in was called the God of Gold's Trap. The system informed everyone that the whole city has been trapped by the God of Gold, and if they would fail to satisfy this one, the game would be over. Right now, the God of Gold that was portrayed by this gold pig was currently at level 2. There will also be 4 maps for this mission and its duration would be 2 weeks. Ying started analyzing the situation. He didn't expect that missions could last longer than 7 days. More information was then shown on their status window. Units were tasked to find treasures in the summon map and bring it to the city. Each treasure's value would be directly related to the satisfaction of the God of Gold. The citizens then started thinking of some things they should do since there were no monsters that would summon inside the city. They all thought that they could just wait for the others to clear this one. This kind of thinking then annoyed the God of Gold. The system then informed everyone that there was no common reward for this mission. all of them should work and try to bring treasures towards the god. Haiju also saw this announcement. The people who were around her then panicked as they thought that they didn't have any combat gear to hunt monsters and look for treasures. Since the status window's size could be customized, Haiju made it like it was just a smartphone. She also thought that this mission has way too many descriptions. This annoyed her because she had to use her brain with this. So she decided to skip reading and just go and hunt some treasures. Haiju was also planning to see the whole new maps that were added towards their city. Meanwhile, Yol was still standing in this tower. He hadn't made any move at all. He smiled because he thought that their player really had some good luck on rolling their dice. Our MC figured that if all things would go according to his plan, he could easily have the city upgraded once again. After that, he would be refraining from using the book to get some information. He thought of this because this book could have some consequences that could backfire to him. But before he could do any of that, a sword suddenly came out from the book. This one had pierced right through Yol. Our MC was caught off guard and felt an enormous amount of ominous aura. But after a few seconds, the sword disappeared. And it seemed that nothing happened. A notification from the system then told him the number of sacrifices he got from the last mission. And it was 0. A painful shock was then felt on his heart. The system then revealed that this was his punishment from the Book of Krasina. Our MC was now being scolded by the Demon King for being lazy. He would also continuously suffer from this pain until he could offer some sacrifices that could satisfy Krasina. Yol was also reminded that there would be severe consequences if there was no offering until his HP reaches 0. The Book of Krasina would then claim the life of the unit that was wielding it, and it would just go and find a new owner. This right here was the drawback of having an overpowered item that came from a Demon King. Meanwhile, the new map that was added along the side of the city has already shown itself. A group of units have found a dungeon in sector of the jungle block. These guys were even happy because it looked like an unregistered one. The leader of the group smiled and claimed that this dungeon right here was for them to take. The mage then asked him if he should contact the army. But asking for their assistance might end up losing more points. This guy has already decided not to ask for help. He then wielded his weapon that was called the Black Flame Dragon. This one has a heroic class grade and allowed him to wield fire damage. The whole group agreed towards this decision and even made a pose. They claimed that this was the start of their epic journey. Also, the name of their group was Kangs and Roses. But before they could enter the dungeon, an intense pressure was felt throughout the area. A silhouette of a large figure had emerged. It also had this ominous aura. The leader of the group then thought that this one was a monster that was gatekeeping the dungeon. They were quite confident that they could study its attack patterns then defeat it. But as they were provoking the said monster, Yol emerged from the dungeon. It was him. This guy was having a hard time carrying a whole bunch of treasures he got inside. He was now like Santa Claus. The leader was about to exclaim the name of Yol, but this guy has already made his way beside him. Our MC has started telling him some information about the boss monster. The whole group then started panicking. They knew that if they heard any kind of information from Yol, they would become sacrifices. Our MC already had this crazy expression on his face as he was desperately leaking all the data he knew. After that encounter, the whole group was sent inside this facility. One person was still furious at what happened. They can't believe that they became Yol's sacrifices on the first day of their first mission. The leader then whined about this not being fair. He demanded the army to do something about it. The mage then butted in and told their leader that they can't do anything about it because Yol was wielding a mythical class item. They should just lay low for now and wait for the mission to be completed. The place they were in was called the Sacrifices of Sovereignty Isolation Camp. All of the people who were present here were all victims of the data that Yol had told them. These guys were also talking about the facial expression that our MC had when he was telling them that information. They claimed that this was the true nature of Choi Yol. Some of them wanted to get some treasures even if they were already influenced by our MC, but they thought that they didn't want this guy to benefit from their efforts, so they backed out. Most of the guys inside that facility agreed on this way of thinking as they all did the same. Meanwhile, The guy that they were busy talking about was now sitting on this pile of treasures. Choi Yo's expression really did change. The system notified him that the number of sacrifices that he now got were around 2,452. This made Demon King Krasna somewhat satisfied. That the punishment was then lessened a bit. Yo felt some kind of relief because the pain was more bearable now. He then stared at the Book of Krasna again. He thought that the punishment was not included in the description of this item at the start. And even though it has all the information about all the things in this game, it was not revealing those that were about itself. Our MC let out a loud sigh as he knew that there's nothing he could do about it. He was now trapped with this book. But this guy still smiled as he thought that at least things were still at the range of his expectations. In his mind, he knew that the Demon King was now thinking that Yo was already under his control. Little did he know, our MC had already planned something out. And this includes all the sacrifices that he got a while ago. The showdown between who was really controlling the situation was now about to commence. It was Yo versus the Demon King Krasna. Our MC was determined to win, so he thought that it was worth a shot. At Sector B in the canyon block, a nest that has 3 huge eggs in it could be seen. This right here was the Emperor Griffon's nest. The mighty and powerful creature that was inhabiting this place was called the Emperor Griffon. This one has a difficulty of level 3. It was said that this one has inherited the blood of a dragon. And right now, this boss monster was about to attack Yo, which turned out to be chilling inside its nest the whole time. At another place in the map, the spear that our powerful waifu was shown. Turns out, Haiju was also busy fighting this elite monster called the Rock Troll. Since her spear was not really damaging the monster, she recalled the teachings of her master. A power isn't meant to be controlled. Instead, one should let it flow and decide its own course. Remembering this part made it possible to sever the head of the troll. Haiju then thanked her master once again for this kind of knowledge. With a chat expression, she claimed that she had become stronger. Jack's effort from teaching her has finally paid off. A woman then appeared near the treasure chest that the troll had been guarding, and this one started searching through the contents of it. It was then revealed that this woman was Jiwoo. Haiju greeted her and called her Miss Jiwoo, but this lady told her to drop the honorifics. Haiju accepted her offer to address her casually, so she called her Beach. She also inquired why Jiwoo was following her around. Jiwoo shamelessly admitted that she was there to mooch off some of the treasures the other person had obtained. Enjoying the rewards without putting in any effort was the ultimate goal. Haiju was not able to react to that statement because Jiwoo proudly said that. These two were now heading towards their next target. Jiwoo also used her situation as a fragile citizen. She knew that Haiju would not let her go alone in this dangerous place. Our waifu had no other choice, so she decided to agree. But she asked Jiwoo to wait for a bit. Haiju then contacted one of her friends and sent them the location of the treasure she got. After that, these two beaches continued their treasure hunt. Haiju then noticed the bag that Jiwoo was carrying and claimed that the contents were not that much considering she was leeching on her all day. Jiwoo replied that her motto was quality over quantity. This confused Haiju because treasures couldn't be appraised until they were inside the city. Jiwoo then told her that she was just using her guts. She always gets the things that make her think this is it. Haiju asked her how she was doing it, and then, this lady right here told her that she was using her eyes. Haiju felt that Jiwoo was kinda strange but somewhat cool. She knew that there was really something going on with her eyes, and while they were walking, Jiwoo asked Haiju about her friends that came here with her. Haiju claimed that they should be safe because she was constantly defeating all the monsters in the area. But then, Jiwoo told her that she really didn't know anything. This one then revealed that monsters were really not the enemies for this mission. And this can't really be considered as a peaceful treasure hunt. This thought then made Haiju stop moving and started thinking. Jiwoo then continued telling her that this mission was like an all-out individual battle since there's no common reward. And the treasures they got were not claimed until after the appraisal. That simply meant that other players could steal the treasures that other people got as long as they were not appraised. And this was proven to be true as the friends of Haiju encountered a group of guys which were stealing the treasures. In this part of the mission, it was easier to fight other people than to fight monsters. This was the start of the impending chaos that was about to happen. Later that night, at this motel building, there had been a broken window. Police officers and investigators were already inside. One of them greeted this man who looked like a really huge guy. They addressed him as Detective Seo. Aside from the detective, there's also another guy who was named Kang Dushik. That guy was already a level 6 citizen while Detective Seo was at level 14. These two were here because there had been another case of stolen treasure. The officer then reported that one man suddenly blacked out during the treasure appraisal, and when he woke up, all of his treasures were gone. The detective then thought that these guys should have handed the treasure straight to the God of Gold. The only problem was that the treasure appraisal takes time. Dushik then started to reveal that appraisal time takes randomly between 1 to 12 hours. It was as if the system was telling other people to go and steal the treasures. This kind of thinking then annoyed Detective Seo. He was not a fan of this mentality. These two who were always beside each other always have contradicting perspectives. The police officers who were on the scene then wondered who was this guy who was brave enough to go against Detective Seo. And while they were watching these two bicker at each other, one of them exclaimed the name of Choi Yo. That officer told everyone that the real Choi Yo really arrived in front of them. This guy was even riding the Emperor Griffon and waved his hand to say hello. Our MC was about to greet them, but a hand stopped him from talking. This one came from Detective Seo. All of this happened in a split second. The detective was also charging up his legendary class item called Funbaek's Glove. It was considered to be one of the divine relics of the old dynasty and contained the power of the Oin god. In its description, if the user managed to find all 3 divine relics, their grade would change to mythical grade. The attack that Detective Seo did to get our MC managed to destroy the road that was below them. Dushik then commanded the officers to send out a Choi Yo alert and evacuate all the people near the area. This guy smiled as he thought that Detective Seo was just too aggressive. That one went straight to a fight against Yul, who had advantage between his gear and level. But something would make him happier, and that was if Detective Seo's bravery would come to bite him and end up being killed by Choi Yul. Right now, Detective Seo didn't utter a single word after pinning this one. He knew that Choi Yul had let him do this because this attack wouldn't even hurt him. Detective Seo then wondered what this carefree guy was scheming. After this, notification sounds could be heard all throughout the city. All of the people were now talking about Choi Yul being arrested. This event made some people think that he was really not a bad person because he voluntarily turned himself in. But for some people, they think that this was part of his plan. Choi Yul being arrested also meant one thing, and that was for people to be more proactive on getting treasures and defeating more dungeons. They knew that the threat of becoming a sacrifice was gone. These guys even celebrated, but this kind of attitude just made the God of Gold more annoyed. Meanwhile, at Sector at the Jungle Block, a goblin village was discovered. These weak monsters were now being subjugated by the citizens who got used to fighting. The weapon that was just used right now by this soldier was called Owl Warder's Tomahawk. It was a heroic class axe, and its effect was it comes back if the user throws it. The soldier who wielded this weapon was Hwang Minwoo, and this guy reported that they just cleared this area. But one of them disagreed as he saw some goblins trying to flee the area. This guy was Li Wujin, and this one wielded the Elferin's Pride, a heroic class bow that was made by the elves. This one then fired his arrows towards those monsters. 2 out of the 3 of them were hit. One goblin then teased the soldier for not hitting it. It was even laughing at them, but its smile disappeared as one bullet landed. The soldiers didn't bother to really chase that one because they knew that their sergeant had their backs. The one they were talking about was Park Seong-kyu. This one was a remarkable sniper, and the item he was using was this Overcoat of Wonder, which decreases the chance of him being noticed by monsters. After confirming the death of the last goblin, Seong-kyu then reported this news to their commander. The outer region was clear. The one he was talking to was Yeung. This guy told everyone that they were about to clear this area as well. The only thing that hindered them was this goblin that was using some kind of magic. This tiny thing claimed that their gods would soon descend upon this place and no one could avoid the impending death. This goblin was still having its speech, but it stopped mid-sentence as one weapon was being charged towards its direction. This item was called the Explosion Ring. It's a magical class accessory that allows the user to use magic explosions every 30 minutes. The soldier who was wielding it raised his middle finger and the ring started to glow. This guy was Kwangsu, who was with Ying in the battle against the corruption beast. After a few seconds, there had been a purple explosion along the area. Ying didn't expect his subordinate to attack the monster while it was still summoning or transforming, but he still commended Kwangsu because they are soldiers, not anime characters. The attack left a huge crater in this part of the map. As for the other soldiers, they were still busy fending off some goblins. One of the soldiers then informed their platoon commander that they had now found their target. The ones they were talking about were the 18 citizens who went missing. These were mostly ladies. Most of them were heavily injured. Something happened here and I'll leave it for you to guess. Later that day, at the military commanding headquarters, Commander Song was still leading the army inside. He was the one responsible for approving and providing some backups to those who needed it. Right now, he revealed that they have planned to make the Goblin Village as their outpost. Commander Song then quickly changed the topic as he talked to Ying about Choi Yo being arrested. Ying told him that he had no idea what he was planning. He then commented that the thing that was scary about Yo was not the Book of Krasna but his brain that takes in all the data and knows exactly what to do with it. Choi Yo was like a grandmaster in this game of chess. Every move he makes was calculated and could end up in his favor. The only thing that Ian could assure Commander Song was the fact that Yo was not their enemy. Back to our MC. The Emperor Griffon that he used to get in this place was becoming bored. It has been a long while since this beast went in front of the police building and was waiting for its master. Talking about its master, this guy was now busy eating cooked food inside the interrogation room. Dushik and Detective Seo were also inside. They found out that our MC just wanted to have a small talk with them. This guy then tried explaining the situation our MC was in. He told him that he was wanted for fraud, robbery, and even murder. Yo didn't care much about these things, so he quickly agreed to these crimes. He even acknowledged them. Detective Seo then smiled and told him that in his 20 years of service, he had already developed this gut feeling that lets him figure out a criminal just by looking at them. Dushik also knew about this ability, and right now, both of them knew that Yo was innocent. Detective Seo claimed that those things that happened to this guy were all accidents. Dushik then approached our MC and told him that this was really a good example of Good Samaritan law. This was a law that allows those who harmed others through goodwill to avoid punishment. Detective Seo then proudly suggested that Yo should turn himself in. He would then make sure that he would clear all the misunderstanding that the people had about him. But their offers were quickly denied by Yo. He told them that he didn't come here to seek their help. This statement confused Detective Seo, and before he could ask our MC more about this situation, a police officer barged in and informed them about an urgent news. It was reported that there had been an assault case, but the perpetrator has a piece of heroic class equipment. Cases like these also started becoming more common in the last few hours. This then forced Detective Seo to leave the room and attend to those matters. After a few moments, a police bus could now be seen heading in a certain place at an incredible speed. Dushik was inside this bus. He thought that the fact that there will be no common reward for everyone revealed that the citizens have no cooperation at all. This guy then commented that things should have been like this from the very start. Dushik agrees with the mentality that chaos was necessary for a new order. This way, the new world would be formed and it would aspire for new powers to emerge. He was then cut off by Detective Seo, who was also inside the bus. He claimed that Dushik should practice thinking like a normal person now. In this detective's perspective, he doesn't get all this otherworld stuff that happened, but all he knew was that they were still humans. And people would end up doing the things that normal humans would do, even if it was with the influence of greed. This right here was a perfect example of how humanity does these when they were backed in a corner. Luckily, people like Detective Seo still exist. This guy right here promised that arresting people who don't want to act like good people was his sole mission. Detective Seo has now successfully apprehended the suspect, and he arrested him for robbery, assault, and attempted murder. He also had this proud smile on his face as he told the suspect that resisting arrest was really not an option. The culprit got intimidated and immediately surrendered himself. He knew that he would just get in trouble if he fought this guy. After that, this one was brought inside the bus. Dushik then told Detective Seo that the laws of the earth don't apply anymore. He even suggested that they should just live like this city's kings. But this idea was not given any attention by this guy. Detective Seo then revealed why he was keeping Dushik by his side all the time. He knew that Dushik was the most dangerous guy in the city. Dushik thought that he would have agreed with Seo on this idea had it been a while ago, but this changed when he met Choi Yul. Dushik claimed that he can't even read our MC's thoughts and his plan behind turning himself in front of the public. As he was thinking about it, an idea came to his mind. Dushik then smiled and told the detective that they will be really busy from now on. He started to explain that ever since Yul turned himself in, the people got this idea that this was their golden opportunity to accumulate treasures and points. And that made the whole city in a mess. Detective Seo defended Yul and told Dushik that this was not what our MC wanted. But the truth was, Choi Yul wanted the people to act. After that, the people would start hiding from Choi Yul again once the next mission starts. Meanwhile, our MC was still inside his cell. He was now currently reading some things inside his book. He smiled and commented that this turned out to be just a fight of patience. The system then showed Yul's current status. His stamina was still at 92.13%, and the amount of sacrifices he got was 2,352. This made the Demon King not satisfied and demanded for more. Yul then brought out this piece of hair that was contained inside this little bottle. This one was a Monkey King's tail hair, and it has a heroic rank class. This item could be used to create the user's alter ego. The hair then turned into a clone that really looked like Choi Yul. Our MC was amazed at how flawless this replica was. Even the scar on his head was a present. Yul then used an invisible cloak to hide himself. But before leaving the place, he reminded his clone to do his best by pretending to be his stand-in. He also added that this clone should last as long as it can without getting caught. The cloak that allowed our MC to pull this stunt was called the Phase Transition Cape. It was a legendary rank cape which allows the user to escape interference of the material world. And with that, this clone was left inside the cell alone. A police officer then barged in and told the clone of Yul to hurry and come out. The clone just stared at the police officer, which made him intimidated. This one then asked if Yul was planning on making him a sacrifice. This one then revealed that their squad was really assigned towards escorting him. So even if they become sacrifices, it wouldn't really matter. Choi Yul walked in the direction of the police officers, and these ones immediately went on guard. To their surprise, Yul smiled at them, and this one asked them that they should now head towards the special isolation ward that the military had prepared for him. This clone revealed that it just wanted to sleep. As for the Emperor Griffon that was waiting outside, it suddenly felt something. This beast then flapped its wings and started leaving the place. The officers who were assigned to guard this one wondered why it left all of a sudden. These guys even regretted not having some pictures of it. Turns out, the Emperor Griffon left because our MC was already on its back. Yul was now busy checking something on his status window. He claimed that the civilians have started to move, so the stage 1 of his plan was a success. The next thing he needed to ensure was to move on to the next stage, which would include the jungle sector. After that, 4 days have already passed. The civilians were now divided into 2 categories. The first one were the outers who go outside the city to find treasures, and the other one were the inners who were in charge of keeping the peace inside the city. All the people were free to choose which role they would like to fill in. The system window made this thing possible, as anyone could post and communicate to each other. The ones who had no battle ability also found their own ways to survive. And so, this mission seemed as if it was going smoothly. Until it was not. This place right here was the jungle sector outpost, which was previously the Goblin Village. A silhouette of an individual emerged at this house. This one was Yeung. He was now in deep thought as he recalled that they managed to build this area in just 2 days. He figured that the otherworld version of humanity was quite scary. These ones have really adapted using magic and powerful weapons. He thought that if those with this kind of power cooperate, they could easily complete this mission. But the problem was not everyone has what it takes to be a team player. Commander Song revealed that inside the city, things were getting out of hand. More and more crimes involving the treasures were being reported, and this includes scamming, pickpocketing, and robbery. Commander Song added that the police were doing their best to lessen these incidents, but they don't have enough people or equipment to respond to every call. Yeung asked his commander if the army would make a move, but this was answered by a firm no. He was told that doing this would make things more dangerous. Commander Song claimed that in the history of mankind, there's never been a good situation when the army tries to fulfill the role of the police. This man firmly believes that until the police officially ask for help, they will not meddle with their work. This was because the military cannot take the leadership of public order. Back to the current situation. Yeung was still thinking about this conversation. He then concluded that even if the whole world changes, humans don't. This idea right here was the bitter truth among humans. And amidst this quiet night, some things were happening in the dark. This person right here was now begging for someone to stop his skill. But the culprit, who appeared to be wearing this dark purple mask, was not listening. He was busy experimenting on the kind of poison that he could make. The mysterious man was wielding this orb that was placed on his right palm. This item has a mythical rank, just like the item that our MC got. This one was called the Abandoned Magic Pearl. This item was said to be thrown away by the Mugi who had been working hard to become a dragon. This one was also a growth-based equipment, which means that if the user constantly uses it, it will become stronger. The orb can make a variety of poisons and manipulate them. This one, who had been chosen to be the lab rat, was already running out of breath. But this one told him that he was still not planning on killing him yet. The system tried identifying the name and other information of this individual, but they were all set to private. The mysterious guy then smiled and revealed that he still had lots of poison combinations left to try. Hearing this, his opponent told him that he would give him all of his treasures just for him to stop. But this one was not even listening. He claimed that everyone was saying that without knowing the real treasure, which was the experience. The purple poison mist was then casted to this guy, and there's nothing he could really do about it. The skill that was directed to him turned into a new form that looked like a snake dragon. After that, the purple mist surrounded the whole area. A gauntlet then appeared and it started getting rid of the poison. This one came from Detective Seo, and right now he is with Dushik. They came in here because of the report they got near this area. These two were immediately startled as they saw what lies in front of them. A person who lost consciousness was lying on the ground. What made this one interesting was that all of this guy's treasures were still with him. He was also not dead. Detective Seo then wondered what kind of group or individual was behind this attack, but all he could say was that something dangerous has emerged because of their search for power. A pile of bodies were revealed in which they also suffered the same fate as the first guy. Dushik smiled as he found this information interesting. He commented that after the great demon king Choi Yul disappeared, another dangerous one emerged within the darkness. Detective Seo then defended our MC once again and claimed that Yul was not a bad guy. Dushik couldn't just compare him to the person who did this, but in the end, he agreed with what Dushik had said. This thing started because of Choi Yul. This guy then thought that he really needed to have a deep conversation with our MC. Dushik teased him, knowing that Yul wouldn't really answer any of his questions, especially at times like this. With that, the detective planned to question the ones who were around him before this mess all started. And these people would be Yeung and Haiju. And while he was riding the Griffon, Yul suddenly sneezed. He then wondered if he just caught a cold, even though he already maxed out all of his stats. Meanwhile, the system has shown the satisfaction level of the God of Gold, and it was at 674% only. Our MC thought that this was still not high enough even if he considered the treasures that were still being appraised. He then thought that there's really nothing he could do about it. This guy was now heading towards the desert sector while carrying a huge pile of treasures. A powerful whirlwind greeted him and the Emperor Griffon. This beast was already at its limit because this had been really a long ride, but it was still able to inform its master that they have now arrived. Yo was then dropped off and he said his goodbyes to Emperor Griffon. He told this beast to rest for now as he will be back soon after this important task. This guy then landed in this sea of treasures. The whole place was surrounded with gold and other valuable items. Yo thought that the treasures that the civilians have gathered wouldn't really matter right now, and this was because he had already got all the expensive ones. This right here was a perfect example of an MC that was really using his abilities to the fullest. A creature then emerged among the treasures that were inside this place. Yo greeted it and told this one to eat a lot and grow quickly. This right here was Yo's own God of Gold, and right now it is still in its baby stage. The system showed that this baby needs love and care. Talk about becoming a father of a god. Meanwhile, at the jungle sector, these soldiers were now in tears as they found out that their platoon commander would be leaving them here. These three were the ones under the supervision of Ying. He was now asked to return to the city as he needed to give a brief statement about Choi Yo. He told his men to not be so dramatic. As their leader was heading out, these guys requested Ying to bring some ice cream on his way back together with a lot of snacks. The truck had already traveled considerable distance and these ones wondered if their leader was really gone. The mood of these three soldiers then changed. They even celebrated as this was their time to have a party. The sergeant who had been assigned to oversee the soldiers observed this and couldn't help but think that they truly appeared foolish. This person was Seonkyu. He then thought that maybe this kind of thing wouldn't really hurt them and it can even boost the morale of the soldiers. It was almost time for them to take on a large-scale dungeon, so they need to loosen up a bit. The three continued dancing around the sergeant and even claimed that they should do a K-pop female idol medley for 5 hours. And even if they were about to celebrate, this guy still can't let himself not worry about the safety of their platoon commander. Meanwhile, this goblin hand infused with magic was shown, and it had landed several clean attacks towards Yo. It was then revealed that these were from Jack, the goblin swordmaster. Yo fell on the ground after that. This one raised his hand and commented that it was now all over. Turns out, Jack just pricked Yo's pressure points, and this guy right here was back to his energetic self. He quickly thanked Jack for his help. The goblin swordmaster then added that this method could only decrease the pain and it still cannot stop it. But this was proven to be good enough for our MC. This powerful monster had already accepted his fate on becoming one of the heavenly kings that serves Choi Yo. Our MC thought that there's still a lot of things he wanted to ask Jack, but he reminded himself that he should do this after the situation has been stabilized, because right now, they were about to take care of a much-needed treasure hunt. Yo planned this one while Ying was not present in the jungle sector, and this was because he was about to raid the largest dungeon that was inside this area. Our MC planned to monopolize everything again. Ying had already arrived inside the city, but then he felt something. The driver that was beside him noticed this and asked what's wrong. Ying then told the driver to turn their car around immediately. This soldier then revealed that there's an ambush that was directed to them. The magical elements that were casted all barely missed the car where Ying was riding. It was then shown that these attacks were also from the civilians which had this purple mist around them. This individual couldn't help but wonder if these individuals had lost their minds, considering they had just launched an attack on the military. But even in this kind of situation, soldiers were not allowed to retaliate against the civilians because it might cause more chaos. Ying then ended up relying on the soldier that was driving the car. He asked this one if he could run from these attacks until the backup arrived. The driver confirmed this. Their car just turned into this intersection doing a sharp right turn. Ying then thought that the crime rate inside the city was worse than he had imagined, and that was because the stronger people were outside the city, and only the cops and the non-combat civilians were left behind this place. This soldier then concluded that this was really the best environment for criminals. And among these guys was this mysterious man who can control the mist of poison who appeared right above them. Ying was still thinking that if a strong villain would appear now, the whole city would turn into the most dangerous field of them all. And right now, a powerful skill was casted towards the army car. It was the same poison that looked like a snake dragon. The only difference was that this one has a more powerful aura around it. The driver of the vehicle then informed his platoon commander about this, and they noted that it was moving way too fast. On the other side of the map, a lizard man was fighting an individual, and this one was Choi Yo. The monster in front of him was called Abyss Lizardman. It is an elite monster and has a difficulty of level 3. More and more monsters then appeared in front of our MC. These were the ones guarding the largest dungeon of the jungle sector. But this kind of battle was just a mere child's play for Yo. He wielded his sword once again and had this annoyed expression. Our MC made one slash and it was more than enough to annihilate all the monsters in front of him. This guy smiled and claimed that the pressure point trick was really great because his body feels so much lighter now. Jack then came in and reminded his master not to push himself too hard. He also informed Yo that this place has the same aura that was a prison inside the Demon King's realm. And with this aura, all the monsters inside were being made stronger. This place right here was called the Abyss Lizardman's underground city. Tackled him. Our MC's expression changed as he realized something. This place could also boost the power of demons. And since the Demon King Krasna was one of them, Yo figured that the punishment of this Demon King would be stronger. He then decided to clear this place and get the treasure as soon as possible so they could immediately leave this place. After a while, our MC had collected enough treasures. He also shared that the most important thing about this mission wasn't to satisfy the God of Gold. That method was just the easiest. Doing this just to pass the mission would also end up receiving only the minimum rewards available. And our MC doesn't want that, so he proceeded to find more loopholes. Choi Yo was the perfect man for the Book of Greed. And that was because what he wanted was to get the most rewards possible. Our MC was willing to do everything for this goal. Even what was happening towards Haiju and Ying right now was part of his plan. The snake dragon has finally reached the army car that Ying was riding, and it devoured it completely. Meanwhile, this guy still had this calm expression. The helmet of Helden was doing its work. Ying also brought out this round item. He then recalled the time when he was given some kind of promotion reward by Commander Song. This commander claimed that he got this item from doing a mission, but he thought that Ying would use it more. He also added that he had given Ying's subordinates some good items too. But this soldier just stood there awkwardly and it made Commander Song wonder if he needed more. He then revealed that he was not just used to a military army that has enough funding. Back to the current situation. The item that he got was this one called Momentary Shelter. This item creates a safe area when used. It has a range of 3 meters and a duration of 3 minutes. This one had protected them and prevented the poison from coming in. Ying commanded the soldier to stop driving as they could cause an accident if they act rashly now. Something then landed in front of them and it startled the driver. This one right here was a mysterious man that also got a mythical item. And he greeted Ying, but this soldier didn't respond. He just stared at him. After a few seconds, Ying spoke and told this one that he would like to talk to their leader. He had mistakenly thought that this one was just a simple minion. Hearing this statement then made this one laugh. He even claimed that he liked this kind of character that Ying possessed. But by the look on this soldier's face, he was not joking. The man with this dark purple mask then revealed that he was really the leader that Ying was looking for. And to answer his request, this one was really not looking on having a conversation with him. This one told them that they just needed to listen and do what he was about to say. Ying and the other individual were given a stern ultimatum that they had to follow him, or they would face their own demise. The mysterious man had now started enveloping the area with a much potent type of poison gas. The metal that was even near them started to corrode. Seeing this kind of scene made the other soldier hug Yi Young. He also begged him to save him, and all the while, this one had been analyzing their situation. He knew that this attack had a wide range and at the same time deadly. His thoughts of encountering people that wield powerful items came true, and this resulted in much more chaos. And since they were also in trouble, he thought that he should just worry about their own survival first. But then, the item that was protecting them started to crack. The mysterious man asked them once again to surrender. He knew that this protective shield would not last a bit longer. Yi Young then told him that he would just surrender against him in one condition, and that is if this person volunteers to become his subordinate. This guy said that in a